In this lesson, we are going to be limiting the number of shots for our stun gun. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to have some sort of visual indication of how many shots the player has left. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and add a new UI element. I'm going to go to our canvas, right click on it, and I'm going to go down to UI, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a slider. Okay, so we have a slider in here. I'm going to go into our scene view, just click the 2D so you can see it's in 2D, zoom out a bit, and pan around, holding in Control Alt, left click dragging, of course, to pan around. And now I'm going to move the slider up into the corner. I'm going to start moving this over here, but I actually want to make this a little bit maybe more narrow. So I'm going to just drag this in. Oops, if I can grab it. Just like that. I think that'll be good right there. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that into place with these crosshairs. So it's at these percentages within the screen. Cool, so we got that. Next thing I need to do is go ahead and make the slider non-interactable. Because currently, if I play, then I can move this slider up and down like that, and that's not really what I want it to do. I want to be able to control it via script and the location, how far this is going this way and that way. And also, I don't really want the circle here at the end. I want it to just be the underlying bar that goes up and down. So, a few things to change there. First thing, in the slider component on the slider I have selected, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck interactable. Second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open up the slider. And here is the handle area. If I uncheck that, then we can hide the handle. So turned off the handle, and next thing I'm going to do is make the slider actually go all the way to the end. You can see now the handle was covering up that last part, but we can go ahead and adjust and move our fill area to fill that up. Now I have to make sure I have the fill area selected before I start adjusting this. So I have this selected. I'm going to move the corner of it up to the end, just like that. Try to get that as close as I can. I think that'll be good. And next thing I want to do is I want to change the color of the fill area. So I'm going to open up fill area, click on fill, and then in the image component I can change the color here. So I'm going to click on the white box here next to color, and I'm going to change this to be a little bit more of a greenish, pretty bright, I suppose, something like that. You can always alter this later as well. But there we go, we have that. Cool. So next thing, so you need to check down here in the slider component. We can see that for the value it's set to 1 currently, and if I move this, you can see how it's being adjusted over here. So it goes between 0 and 1, and we'll have to adjust for when it gets to 0 so that you don't have this last little bit there, but this is just showing you sort of how this works. So we have a slider here we can adjust. We want to adjust that via code. So if we go back over into MonoDevelop, the first thing I want to do is I want to get a reference to this slider. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new variable, new public slider variable. I'm going to call this energy slider. Next thing I want to do is down here in our check for attack, we're going to be altering that value. And I'm actually going to make one more variable so we can use in order to do this. It's going to be, I think I can make this one private. So I don't need to assign it anywhere or access it anywhere as far as I think, so we should be good. And we're going to call it, it's going to be a float first off, and we're going to call it fraction of energy. Okay, cool. So what we're going to use this variable for is basically to say what is the number we should put into the value here, because you see it goes from 1 to 0. So we can think of it as being 100% to 0% of energy, so therefore a fraction of energy. And now, down here in our check for attack, I'm going to go ahead and add some more code in. We're going to, first of all, calculate how much energy our fraction should be set to. And I'm going to make, sorry about this, but I'm going to make one more variable actually. it's going to be, we can make this public so we can assign it in the inspector. It's going to be a float, and I'm going to call it energy depletion speed. So we're making 3 new variables here. And they are our energy slider, our fraction of energy, and our energy depletion speed. So we'll need all of those in order to get this working here. Now, I'm going to calculate the fraction of energy by saying that equal to, and we need to basically subtract little by little as we go, continue to hold down the left mouse button. So I'm going to say fraction of energy minus the energy depletion speed and I'm also going to times that by time dot delta time to make this frame rate independent. So we have that, but we don't want this to go below 0, so I'm also going to put this inside of a function, inside of a mathf dot, we want to use the max function, because we're minusing, so we want this to basically be either whatever this shoots out or 0. So once this number ends up getting below 0, it's not going to return that number, it's going to return 0 because we're using the mathf.max, so we'll return the max between these two. So close that out, and the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and set our energy slider dot value to be equal to our fraction of energy value. And so we have that, so that should start working. In fact, I think we can go ahead and test that out. So let's go ahead, I'm going to save that, go back over here, and we're going to go ahead and play this once that finishes compiling. And there's still a little bit more code we got to put in, but let's go ahead and see what's happening now. So if I hold this in, of course, it's going to give us a null reference exception because we need to actually assign this slider. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's our character controller. Go down here, and we need to drag and drop this slider onto here. And let's set our energy depletion speed to, let's say, 0.5. Okay. Now, I think there's one other thing I need to go ahead and fix actually in the code. So I'm going to go back into ModelDevelop, and here we have our fraction of energy. We want this to start at 1 because it's going to be depleted, right? We don't want it to be immediately at 0 because then it's going to immediately jump to the end. So I'm going to set this equal to 1, save that, and then go back over here, let that compile, give that a few seconds. Make sure there's no errors, and then we can go ahead and test it. Cool. Okay, let's test this out. See what happens when I play it. So if I start firing, you'll see, yep, the energy bar is going down. And we can adjust the energy depletion speed if we want to make it fit more of our gameplay. But for now, that's fine, just for testing, that should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and go back into ModelDevelop. Go down here, and I'm going to do another thing. You might have noticed that once we actually get down to the end of this, I'll show it again, is that even when it gets down to the end, we can still fire, and there's that last little bit that never goes away. So I want to fix those two things. And actually, I am going to go ahead and change this down a little bit, just make it 0.2 instead of 0.5. Okay, and okay, so let's go back over here. The first thing I want to do is I want to put a new condition inside of this part here where we're checking to see, are we trying to fire? Well, guess what? If we're trying to fire but we're out of ammo, then that means some things need to happen. So let's go ahead and check to see if fraction of energy is equivalent to 0 while we're in here. If it is, then what we need to do is we need to go ahead and set our stun gun emission rate to 0. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. A little easier. The second thing we need to do is actually turn off our slider bar. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new variable for that. It's going to be a game object because we're just going to set its active state to off. So public game object slider bar. And now let's go down here and we can go ahead and set that off. So slider bar, and we wanted to set that to .setActive equal to false. Finish that up, and we can go test that out. So let that compile, and then we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll be able to shoot until the bar runs out, and then once it's run out, then we will not be able to fire anymore. So let's see, shooting around, let's see what happens. And of course nothing happens because we need to assign that variable. So let's go ahead and do that very quickly. It's going to be the fill area. Let's go ahead and put that into the slider bar slot on our player health and attack script. And we'll test this one more time. So go ahead and start shooting. And once we run out of ammo or energy, then yep, it goes away the last little bit, and I am not firing anymore, even though I'm holding in the fire button. So that's it for this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.